So it is my pleasure to introduce to you my colleague, Dr. Katherine Richardson, Bruna, who will be talking about an update of the ISU Free Promise program this year.
Well, and because I'm the professor in charge, it means I get to sort of change things at the last minute. So, so this really, what you're not going to hear so much, I think, is an update, but an inspiring message that I think picks up on the message that Mike left us with, and that starts in a personal place. So I am a preacher's daughter. Why am I telling you that? And what does it have to do with the ISU For You Promise? So in 1953, my father was kicked out of Duke Theological Seminary for questioning the segregation of worship. He spent his entire pastoral career trying to bring a living social consciousness to the Methodist Church. And in his time, he was disheartened at the church's response, their reprimands, to his activist clergy identity. That I am this preacher's daughter means I understand that social change is an interaction, a complex interaction, between individuals and institutions. Those interactions are not always easy, but they're necessary. As a preacher's daughter, I also understand the power of words. Words bind members of congregations together on Sunday. Words bind people to their faith. That I am a preacher's daughter means I take a promise, I take the promise, the ISU For You promise, seriously. My dad used the metaphor of Don Quixote fighting windmills to describe his work. In an article just published last month with colleagues, some of whom are in the room here, I used the metaphor of a diamond in the cornfields to describe the ISU For You promise, inspired by the movie Field of Dreams. If we build it, will they come? Today we are celebrating what we have built and that they are coming. We have 15 ISU For You Promise scholars admitted currently. It's really, really exciting. So this, the metaphor here in terms of now sticking to my original script and doing an update is really meant to represent different phases of my involvement with the ISU For You promise. So if you think of maybe the home plate to first baseline, that might be the year of 2012 to 2013 that would represent when Representative Akeo Abdul-Samad spoke with then ISU President Stephen Leaf around this idea of a partnership between Iowa State University and King and Moulton Elementary Schools. The line from first base to second, we could think of as sort of the pre-program phase that lasted, it feels like it lasted a long time, but we were busy every single minute of that dash, right? From first to second. That would be about 2013 to 2015. 2015 is where we established the official memorandum of agreement between Iowa State University and Des Moines Public Schools. And that was what I call the pre-program phase. We had to establish new relationships. We had to figure out who were the people we had to talk to. And we had to figure out how our institutions were going to interact formally around those relationships. We had to build new then structures, new things, like the idea of a tuition award. What does that mean? What does that look like? What's it going to be? How are we going to communicate it to families, to children? How are we going to track kids? How are we going to know who's coming? Who's coming? Cynthia Hunafa is coming. And we had to establish shared understandings of what this work was about. Okay? And we're still doing that. You know, that wasn't just the dash from first to second, right? We're still in that dash. But that we had to do some heavy lifting in those years. And then we could think of the run from second to third as the implementation phase. And for those of you that might have picked up in the back, there's a logic model here, and actually I think you have it on the next slide. Or do I? Sorry. Yeah, I'm the professor in charge. I get to ask Sherry Miller to push the down arrow. That represents then the things we built from the 2015 to the current moment to help us establish working relationships with teachers where they were on teacher liaison teams where they were telling us what they thought they wanted and they needed and what they knew that their students wanted and needed. We developed Kayla Pippett, who's not here physically, but in spirit, although she's probably traipsing around Latin America by now. She wrote a college-going curriculum that had the ideal of matching each grade level at the schools with one of our undergraduate colleges here, and she wrote lessons that teachers could use to connect the majors in those colleges to the experiences of students in the schools, and that's a resource that's been developed out of this work. We finally, put together the teams to really think about what eligibility means and what do we need in terms of work with Des Moines Public Schools. Who are the people that are going to help us get the data that we need? Who's going to handle that data here? And we need to evaluate this thing. So something really important that happened in this last, well, not last, right? In this latest run from second to third is that we then formalized an evaluation team, an evaluation plan, and we have institutional approval to do research on the program. So that 20 years from now, we can actually sit here in this room or a bigger room and really look at the impact of the program on youth and families' lives. And I wouldn't have us run from third to fourth, third to home yet. Let's leave that open. So if you think about it now, we've got we've got one side of that diamond open, and because we have to fill it, right? We have to fill it with the good stuff that is the good stuff of this program that's yet to come. It's been 5 years since the initial announcement of the ISU for You Promise, and we have 422 youth enrolled in the program to date. At least that's the last number that I know. In this article that we published, it's really meant to highlight the uniqueness of this as an early commitment promise program. There are others. There are no others that do what we do the way that we do it. It's early childhood implementation that we are messaging to families as soon as they enroll at those elementary schools about the promise of college access and affordability, so that in utero those families know those babies have a chance to go to college. That changes what happens in the life of a child and a family. It's a wide net program. Every child at those elementary schools, as long as they graduate 5th grade, are eligible. We don't restrict it to income. We don't restrict it to particular performance via grade or teacher recommendations. There's no racial, ethnic criteria. Everybody in, right? It's place-based. So it's not even the whole Des Moines Public School District like some promise programs, it's 2 schools. So that allows us to build relationships around what those schools and the communities that serve them need. And the university is the sole funder. And that might feel like an incredible challenge, but it's also really a place of liberation. We are not bound to the interests of any philanthropic organization coming in and saying, we'll give you $3 million if you do this and this and this and this way for us. We get to build this thing, right? It's ours to build. Nobody else controls this but us. So as a preacher's daughter, I'm going to end with a story. And this is a story that comes from a year after the initial announcement was made by then President Stephen Leith in an assembly at Moulton. So this is a year later, and at this assembly, senior VP of Student Affairs Thomas Hill is in attendance and gave a very rousing energy building sort of call to the young people. And after a week after that event, I got this email from Carmen Lampe-Zeitler, who was the then executive president of Children and Family Urban Movement. And she sent me this story. She said, Katie, this might be a story to pass along to Dr. Hill. Yesterday I took Marley to see Frozen. They are Moulton second graders. There's another student there. So yesterday I took Marley and Belinda to see Frozen. They are Moulton second graders, so this was in 2014. Both amazing. Marley is truly like no other child I've ever known. Her full name is Marley, for Bob Marley, Coretta, for Coretta Scott King, Rose, for Rosa Parks. There were advertisements before the movie began, including one for ISU. Marley said, my dad's going to make me go there to college. I asked why that was. Mr. Hill said that if we graduate from high school, we can go to Iowa State. And tell him, for those who were there in the auditorium, and tell him, give me the money. I said, yes. I heard him say that at the Martin Luther King Celebration Assembly. Marley said, what's his first name? I told her it was Tom, and that he was actually Dr. Tom Hill. I said, not a medical doctor, but he has a special degree. And Marley said, like Dr. King? Yes, I replied. The Moulton students heard Dr. Hill loud and clear, it seems. So let's keep sending the ISU For You Promise message loud and clear to students like Marley and Belinda at Moulton and King. And thanks to the presenters for sharing your voices today. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much.